Hello and welcome everyone to ATB. This is going to be something a little bit different. Obviously not your regular ATB. It is I, Nick Nova, one of your co-hosts, content producer, podcast producer. If Turner's got multiple terms to what he does, then so do I. I have many a title, but I'll stick with that for the moment. A bit of a recap on the week that has been, if you don't know what has been happening in the world of Western Sydney Wanderers. Vedran Jedirovic, the snake in the grass, has signed a 4-year deal to stay at Western Sydney. So we all thought that he might leave for Europe at the end of the season, as is what was rumoured to be happening. But he has signed on for another 4 years, so that either leaves him playing in the A-League throughout the rest of his career, hopefully at Western Sydney Wanderers, and continuing to develop as a goalkeeper and being a veteran of the league. Or perhaps a European team comes in and they pay a nice fee for him, and we get to see some money come into the club and he can go on and do his thing in Europe. So one or two things can happen there. So thank you very much, Vedran, and I did not appreciate the intrusiveness of you texting me without having consented to accessing my number. So a bit of privacy issues there. You'll hear from my lawyers. Secondly, sticking on the term of players, Chris Hurd and nice guy of Western Sydney Wanderers, Jared Tyson, have left Western Sydney Wanderers by mutual consent. Hurd was rumoured to be having some personal issues, which is why he has not played very regularly in the first team or for Western Sydney Wanderers since his arrival in the off-season. He did start the season quite well and then sort of tapered off after the birth of his child, so I'm not too sure what's happening there, but hopefully he continues on and finds some playing time elsewhere. So all the best, Chris. And likewise to Jared Tyson. Never really got going as a Western Sydney Wanderers goalkeeper, even in his second stint at the club. But I'm sure that he'll have something else lined up in the future. And if goalkeeping doesn't work out, he does have his food blogs and classes and things like that to look forward to. So you might see, in the kitchen with Jared on one of the cable network, cooking shows. Said Sydney Journo claimed that Rolly Bonavazia was also on the way out, and Rolly came back and said, "What are you doing about it?" Because apparently he's not. So Rolly came out on Twitter and he said to Mr. Ray Gatz, my Twitter friend, "Hello Ray, how you going? Say hi to David for me." Says that he's going, and Turner says that it's not true. He's staying on apparently, or Turner reckons so anyway, and apparently someone is going to owe someone a beer at the end of the season. If Rolly stays on, then Ray Gatt will owe Turner a beer. If Rolly goes, then Turner will owe Ray Gatt a beer. So boys, keep a spare $5 in your pockets, and who knows just yet what's going to happen. Our big man up front, the big Spaniard, the number 9, Oriol Riera, needs one more goal to surpass as Western Sydney Wanderers all-time leading goal scorer in a regular A-League season. He's currently on 14 goals so far. He needs one more to beat Santa Labs, which he hit last season in season 16-17, that being the year, not the year that we were included into the A-League. So one more goal, we'll see that happen for him. And if you haven't listened to this week's Around the Block, I highly recommend that you do so. Stephen and Specky did preview the game that is happening tomorrow. So Sunday afternoon, 5 p.m. kickoff at ANZ Stadium. Western Sydney Wanderers take on Adelaide United, who will finish in the top 6 to go on to the playoff rounds. But stipulation being that Brisbane Roar and Perth Glory, who play on Saturday night, if they get a draw and Western Sydney get a draw, Western Sydney finish in 6th because we're 1 point ahead of both teams who are on 32 points. We're on 33. But if either Perth or Brisbane win, then we really need to win against Adelaide. And I'm pretty sure Marco Kurtz will like to see Adelaide go into the finals with a bit of form on their backs, bouncing back from that 3-0 loss to Sydney last week. And of course, going to have to eventually, congratulations to Sydney FC, back-to-back premiers, first club to ever do so in the A-League, and they'll be looking to take out the semi-final and final as well and become the first ever double champions back-to-back in the Hyundai A-League. So credit where credit's due. So onto that game, which is going to be happening tomorrow. Gombau has said that, our side, not his side, Western Sydney Wanderers, are favoured by the A-League, not following the widespread football practice of starting all final round matches at the same time. So it sort of helps us because we'll know what we need to do. But then again, if Brisbane or Perth do win, then we really need to hold nerve fight and try and get a result against Adelaide, because I don't think Adelaide are going to lie down and just roll over. Even though we beat Brisbane last week, they were a pretty shithouse. If you listen to the podcast, you'll hear how Stephen and Specky dissected that game, and very rightly so, singled out Brisbane for their complete crapness in that game, but we were fantastic. So that's what's happening there. So that is the game for tomorrow. Western Sydney Wanderers versus Adelaide United. Hopefully we get on our top. If we don't, then we will rightfully be out of the final series, because we don't belong there, because we've been so crap this season. Had an average one. Manager left a week before kickoff. Caretaker came in for about a month or two. New manager has come in, changed things around. Rifts of players and manager not getting along. Players already having gone mid-season. Players out of nowhere having gone as well, like Cornthwaite being the captain. That came out of the blue. So interesting to see what happens tomorrow and thereon in the off-season as well, if we get knocked out at any point during the competition. So we'll wait and see what happens. But I am backing my team. So go Wanderers.